Hello and welcome to Lemieux Reviews, where we bring you the stories you may not yet have heard of. My name is Rossamy, and today we're bringing you Once and Future, Part 20. The countdown to the end of the series has begun. Now that there are multiple versions of the same story running around, how will our intrepid heroes save the day? Join us now to find out. We see on our cover Arthur claiming the Sword in the Stone. Part 20 was created by Kieran Gillen, Dan Mora, Tamara Bonneville, and distributed by Boom Studios. It was released on September 22nd, 2021. Gran and the rest of the surviving home are packed into RVs and buses, headed towards a new shelter, a bell dinging as they drive to ward off a fairy attack while they are in the open. They arrive at the now transformed family home. In its place, the Grail Castle looms over them, made real where once it was just story. Gran readies herself for the trials and new residents might hold for them. In the fields north of Reading, the two camps of Arthurs face off against each other. A test of wills and might about to commence between the two, though the undead Merlin preaches a watch and approach tactic. But Arthur refuses, needing to settle the question of who the true king is, opting to take on the battle with his own powers. With the raising of a hand, he summons forth legions of undead knights to do his bidding, and he bids them destroy his rivals. Undead Arthur boasts of his powers to Merlin, but we see a tent flap open and the knight Lancelot emerges, the very same one from the Grail Castle. As the horde of dead bear down upon him, Lancelot draws his blade back, readying a mighty attack. At the Grail Castle, Gran readies the three of them to head inside, getting the convoy turned around in case of a need for a hasty retreat. And in they walk with the hopes of finding supplies and safety. As they venture further into the castle, it is shown to be a dark and abandoned fortress. Seeing that things are safe, Rose now decides to go and save her parents. But Gran has her reservations, her parents being in Bath, and Bath being a place that is just packed with stories. But Rose is adamant, even throwing Gran's relationship with Mary in her face. With that, Gran shuts down and walks away, Duncan following shortly after to make sure she is alright. He finds Gran in what would now amount to her room in the transformed castle, looking into an old desk drawer, rummaging through some things. She finds old mementos of her adventures, things she had to leave behind when she moved out of the house. She comes across an old photo of her and Mary as a child. When Duncan brings up what Rose said, he begins to suspect there is something Gran is lying about. Going over the story of her and Duncan's life, the plans and hopes she had for him, and what she did when she thought her family betrayed her, leaving Mary to think she is just a killer who would do anything to stop them from completing their mission. She talks about raising him different, to not have to follow in her footsteps, and looking back out on all, they realize they need to help Rose get her family. They meet back up with Rose in the courtyard and tell the orderly to set up a barricade and keep the bell ringing because it'll keep away the worst of the monsters, as they drive off to Bath to save Rose's parents. At the battle, Lancelot has gone on the attack, swinging his blade and cutting down all the foes that stand before him with ease. Merlin, reading the room, demands they retreat. Unable to face Lancelot in combat, they use Merlin's magic to flee the field. Lancelot stands over his fallen foes, claiming victory. And so he goes to kneel in front of the Queen Guinevere, pledging the victory to her, as the new Arthur decides they must pursue and defeat the undead one. Outside Bath, the group stops to survey the city, noticing a large group gathered in the town center, only for Gran to immediately knock the scope away from Duncan's face. And we see why. A massive Gorgon walks the streets of Bath, turning everyone it sees into stone. And there we have it, everyone. Part 20. Not a lot happening this issue. Some minor battles that may get resolved in the future, in later issues. But there is a new mythology and pantheon drop, with Greek or Roman myths in the form of the Gorgon. First appearing in Greek mythos, they had sharp fangs, snakes for hair, and wings. One famous story is about a Gorgon named Medusa and her two sisters, later adapted by the Romans, making the story of Medusa into one of a woman starting out as a human being, cursed to be a Gorgon, also getting rid of the sister. Though this Gorgon may be something new, it doesn't look like any of the previous renditions of what a Gorgon is, namely standing on two legs, might be male, and carrying a bow. Well, everyone, I want to thank you for joining us today. Please like, share, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought down in the comments below. Till next time.